She called the cops on me. But I was the owner all along. Some people really think loud threats can erase legal documents. This woman didn't just trespass on my land. She stood on my porch, called 911, and told dispatch I was trying to break into her house. The cops showed up ready to detain me, until I calmly handed them one document. Her face? Pure panic. Because what she didn't know was that I didn't just own the house. I own her lease. You're not going to believe how deep this rabbit hole goes. Stick around. This isn't just a story about property. It's a story about power, justice, and the one mistake she'll never live down. I wasn't supposed to be here for another 2 weeks. My contractor texted me early that morning. Drywall's done. Place is ready. You want to see it? So I hopped in my truck, drove 5 hours straight, and pulled up to the house I bought sight unseen 2 months ago. Quiet cul-de-sac. Beautiful stonework. Mature trees lining the yard like nature's picket fence. It looked like the dream I'd worked 20 years to build. No mortgage. No lien. My name stamped clean and bold on the deed. But the moment I stepped onto the driveway, something felt off. There was a shiny white SUV parked dead center of my spot. Toys scattered across the lawn. Wind chimes I'd installed hung by the porch. And then the front door opened. She stepped out like she owned the whole world. Mid-40s, pixie haircut, yoga pants, pink hoodie that read Lakewood HOA. Respect the rules. She had that posture, that tight-jawed confidence of someone who thought everyone else was trespassing through her kingdom. "Excuse me? Can I help you?" she snapped, marching across my grass. I kept calm. "Morning. I'm the new owner. Just came to check out the place." She actually laughed. "I live here. You're on private property." I tilted my head, unsure if this was some misunderstanding or a bad prank. "Ma'am, I closed on this property 6 weeks ago. Got the title paperwork right here. No, I'm calling the police." She wasn't bluffing. Out came the phone, fingers flying across the screen as she spun some wild tale to the 911 operator. "Yes, there's a strange man on my property. He's saying he owns a house. I think he's trying to break in." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just walked over to my truck, opened the glove box, and pulled out the folder that would end her reign in exactly 7 minutes. But she didn't know that. Not yet. And as the sirens got louder, she had no idea that the house she claimed as hers was already mine, down to the mailbox, backyard, and even the lease she signed last year. The cruiser pulled up with sirens off but lights spinning. 2 officers stepped out, one younger, scanning the situation with wary eyes, and the other clearly the senior, walking with a kind of deliberate calm that meant he thought he had it all figured out. Karen waved them down like she was flagging a cab in New York. "That's him," she shouted. "That's the man who tried to force his way into my home." I stood still. No sudden moves. Folder in one hand, the other visible by my side. "Sir, can we talk for a moment?" the older officer asked as he approached, hand near his holster but not yet gripping it. "Of course, officer. I'm the legal owner of this property. Closed on it in June. All documents are right here." Karen scoffed. "That's a lie. I've lived here for over a year. My rent is auto-drafted. This is my house." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, do you have a lease agreement?" "I don't need one. The HOA takes care of all that. I have a verbal contract with the board president." The younger officer exchanged a look with his partner. That was her first mistake. I saw it in their eyes, that little flicker that said something doesn't add up here. I handed over the folder. Title deed, property transfer, notarized signatures, closing statements, all legitimate. Bought from a retired couple who'd moved to Florida. Clean history. No liens. The house had been listed as vacant since February. The older cop flipped through the pages and nodded slowly. "Sir, please wait here," he said politely before walking over to his partner. Karen noticed a change in body language immediately. Her voice pitched up. "What are you doing? He's trespassing. He has no right to be here." "Ma'am," the younger cop began gently, "do you know the name of your landlord?" She hesitated, just for a second, but long enough. I deal directly with Mr. Hampton from the HOA, she stammered. "He takes care of all rental properties here. It's always been that way." Hampton, that name rang a bell. I pulled out my phone, opened the email chain from the real estate attorney who handled my closing, searched Hampton. There it was. HOA President, Douglas Hampton, filed liens against 3 former tenants for rule violations. settled 2 lawsuits out of court in 2021. Karen wasn't a squatter. She was a pawn. The older cop came back. Sir, you're free to stay here. Everything checks out. Miss? He turned to Karen. You'll need to provide documentation of your lease or vacate until this is resolved. Karen's eyes widened like a deer in headlights. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I don't have a lease, she finally admitted, but I have rights. The cop's voice dropped. Calm, authoritative. You don't have possession without a valid lease or title. Unless you can prove otherwise, you're on someone else's property. And just like that, the switch flipped. Her arrogance drained like air from a balloon. She backed up a step, voice trembling now. This isn't fair. He's scamming me. Hampton said this house was vacant for years. He said I could live here if I paid community dues. Now that got my attention. Wait, I said, stepping forward carefully. You've been paying him? Yes, she snapped. Every month, $1,800. Through Zelle, to his personal account. The officers looked at each other again. The younger one pulled out a notepad. Ma'am, you just said on record that you've been sending rent to an individual without a signed lease. Did you receive receipts? Only email confirmations, she muttered. He said the HOA didn't issue paper leases. I shook my head. It was worse than I thought. Hampton was running a shadow rental operation, pretending to manage vacant properties and pocketing the rent. Karen had been living in my house, thinking she was a legitimate tenant, because Hampton told her so, and now she just admitted it to 2 uniformed officers. The older cop exhaled, slow and low. You might want to start gathering any proof you have. This is going to turn into a civil and possibly criminal matter. And, ma'am, I'd suggest contacting a lawyer. Karen's whole face collapsed. For the first time, she wasn't yelling. She wasn't posturing. She looked lost. Where am I supposed to go? She asked, voice cracking. Ma'am, that's outside our jurisdiction, the officer replied. But I suggest you vacate peacefully before this escalates. She turned to me then, eyes pleading. You can't just kick me out. I have nowhere to go. Please. I paused. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face. She tried to get me arrested on my own property. Lied to the police. But the bigger part, the smarter part, knew this wasn't just about her. This was about Hampton. And now I had a witness. I'm not kicking you out, I said, but you're going to help me take down the man who really put you in this position. She looked confused. What? Pack your things. We'll talk. But this isn't just about you squatting in my house. I looked at the officers. It's about how many other people got scammed into thinking they lived here legally. The senior officer nodded. We'll open a fraud report. Looks like this HOA just got a whole lot more interesting. The next morning, I stood in the kitchen of my own house, now empty, except for the faint echo of Karen sobbing from the night before still ringing in my ears. She'd packed what she could. 2 suitcases, a dog carrier, and a basket of mismatched kitchen utensils. When she left, she didn't even look at me, just climbed into the SUV and drove off like she was fleeing a crime scene. And maybe she was, but not the way she thought. Now it was time to dig, not just for answers, for evidence. I opened my laptop, logged into the county records database, and started pulling every property listing tied to the Lakewood HOA. It didn't take long before something strange jumped out at me. 9 addresses, including mine, were marked unoccupied in the official county tax records. But those same addresses had active utility accounts. Water, power, internet, meaning people were living in them. Unofficially, illegally. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I looked up the tax rolls for each of the 9 homes. Not a single lease recorded. No landlord filings. No rental licenses. This wasn't just negligence. This was a coordinated ghost rental scheme. And Douglas Hampton was the spider at the center. He used his position as HOA president to control access to vacant properties, waited for homes to go unsold or owners to move out, then assigned them to tenants like Karen, who didn't ask too many questions. No leases, no protections, no official record, just word-of-mouth approvals, auto-pay Zelle transactions, and whispered promises of community privilege. The more I pulled, the deeper the hole got. There were fake violation notices for Cluttered driveways, conveniently timed the same week people were evicted. Several homes had conflicting records, listed as unoccupied for tax purposes but flagged for noise complaints or unauthorized guests, meaning someone was watching, monitoring, enforcing these ghost rentals like a private kingdom. I needed proof, hard proof, so I paid a visit to the woman with the roses, Mrs. Holloway. She'd watched from her porch that first day when Karen called the cops. Back then, she looked away, avoided eye contact, slammed the door. But today, when I knocked, she opened it slowly, like someone checking for landmines. Mrs. Holloway, I said gently, I think you've been lied to for a long time, and I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. She didn't answer, just stared at the floor for a long time. Then, how many? 9 houses, I replied, that I know of. Her voice was barely above a whisper. It's more than that. My heart slowed. How many? 14, maybe 15. He rotates them, keeps the names off paper, says it's to preserve community image. No low-income rentals, no Section 8 filings, no investor red flags. My stomach turned. So people are paying him to live in homes they don't legally rent? Yes. And when they stop paying, he sends the HOA notices, or he uses others to force them out. Others? She nodded, eyes haunted. They call themselves the advisory circle, but they're just as enforcers. That's when she handed me the folder, a thick, yellow envelope, worn at the edges, sealed with shaking hands. I kept everything. Photos, emails, screenshots. I wanted to turn it in, but she glanced toward the street. Everyone's afraid. He has friends on the city council, on the zoning board, code enforcement. I took the envelope like it was nuclear-grade evidence. Thank you, I said. You just saved this neighborhood. But she shook her head. No, detective, that's what you're going to do. That night, I didn't sleep. I combed through the contents of Mrs. Holloway's folder. Photos of cash being dropped off at Douglas Hampton's home in unmarked envelopes. An Excel sheet with initials and monthly donation amounts. Screenshots of emails that use coded language like community quiet fee and placement privilege. It was the cleanest, dirty scam I'd ever seen. A full-scale shadow housing operation, run through an HOA. By morning, I had enough to take to the state's attorney. But I wasn't going to make it that far, because at 7:12 a.m., someone knocked on my front door. Not lightly, not politely. 3 sharp raps, authoritative. I opened the door to find 2 men in suits, both mid-40s. No badges visible. One carried a black binder. The other stood with his arms crossed, scanning the inside of my house like it offended him. Mr. Carter? The first one asked. Depends who's asking. Mr. Hampton would like to speak with you. My blood ran cold. You can tell Mr. Hampton he can reach me through my attorney. The second man took a small step forward. We're not here officially, Mr. Carter. This is friendly outreach. Then you won't mind leaving before I start unfriendly documentation. I replied, holding up my phone. Camera already recording. The one with the binder smiled. Just remember, some neighbors value discretion. Others get overwhelmed. They turned and left without another word. But I knew what that was. A warning. A signal. Douglas Hampton knew exactly what I found. And now he was coming for me. Saturday morning. Lakewood's HOA quarterly meeting. Usually a boring affair. Folding chairs, donuts, and residents pretending to care while Douglas Hampton held court like some wannabe king. But not today. Today, every chair is filled. More than 60 residents packed into the community hall. Some standing along the walls. Phones were already out. Whispers spread like wildfire, because word had gotten around. That new guy, the one Karen called the cops on, was about to do something, and everyone wanted front row seats. Douglas Hampton stood at the front of the room in his signature navy blazer and gold HOA lapel pin, leaning casually on the podium like a man who'd never been challenged. His inner circle, 4 stone-faced board members, sat behind him like Supreme Court judges. He tapped the mic. Before we begin, let's all remember to be civil. This community thrives on order, tradition, and respect. A few scattered nods. Someone coughed. No one clapped. Then I stood, middle of the room, every head turned, every phone camera pointed. "Actually, Mr. Hampton," I said calmly, "I'd like to open with something first." He looked down at me like I was a stain on his polished floor. "This isn't open forum yet, Mr. Carter. Please take your seat." No, just that. One word. But it hit the room like a gunshot. Gasps. Whispers. I stepped forward, raising a manila folder. This isn't just about forum time. This is about fraud, extortion, and a criminal scheme that's been operating under the radar for nearly 5 years, right here in Lakewood. Douglas's expression didn't change, but the twitch in his left eye betrayed him. "I have documentation," I continued. "Proof of illegal rentals on at least 14 properties. Residents paying directly to you, without leases, receipts, or legal protections." The room erupted. Someone shouted, "Is that why I couldn't get a copy of my lease?" Another, "You told me my house was under HOA lien. Was that a lie?" Douglas held up both hands, still composed. "Everyone, please. Mr. Carter is clearly confused. He's new to the community and I own the house you try to rent out behind my back." I cut in. Silence. I held up the signed deed. Camera flashes popped. "I closed on it 2 months ago. Found someone living there. Someone you told could move in as long as she paid your so-called community dues. She had no lease. Just your word." His voice lowered, calculated. "You're making wild accusations." "Am I?" I nodded toward the doors. That's when the officers entered. 2 state police detectives. Plain clothes, badges visible. And right behind them, a small, elderly woman in a cream cardigan. Mrs. Holloway. She walked with slow purpose toward the podium, unfolded a set of printouts, and set them on the table in front of the stunned board members. "These," she said softly into the microphone, "are cash receipts. Payments I witnessed being delivered to Mr. Hampton's home by residents who believed they were paying legal rent. Some of them lost their savings. One couple was evicted the day after their final payment. Now, even his inner circle looked uneasy. I stepped up beside her. "We also have video," I said, plugging in a USB stick to the projector behind the podium. And then came the footage. Grainy but clear. Hampton taking envelopes at his front door, telling one resident to keep it quiet. HOA prefers discretion. Another video showed him laughing during a board meeting. No lease, no fuss. They can't sue you if they can't prove they live there. A woman near the back of the room covered her mouth. "That's my house." He said we were on probation. Douglas tried to regain control. "This is taken out of context. These are fabricated, spliced recordings." One of the detectives stepped forward. "Mr. Hampton, we have reason to believe you defrauded multiple residents and committed tax evasion. You'll need to come with us." He turned pale. "No, I'm the HOA president. I was elected. I have immunity." "You don't have immunity," I said coldly. "You have victims." The officers cuffed him right there, in front of the entire neighborhood. Gasps. Phones filming. Applause beginning to ripple across the crowd. One by one, people stood up. "That man charged me $3,000 to repaint my mailbox. He threatened me with a lien when I asked to see financial records. He forced my daughter to move out. Said renters weren't welcome even though we own the home." Mrs. Holloway stepped to the mic one more time. Her voice was quiet but ironclad. "No more fear. No more silence. It ends today." And just like that, the illusion shattered. 15 years of manipulation, intimidation, and stolen money, undone in 10 minutes. As Douglas was let out, he looked back one last time. His mask was gone. No more calm. No more control. Just panic. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't over. 3 weeks later, I stood on the courthouse steps in a suit that still smelled faintly of lake air and drywall dust. A local reporter held her mic out to me. "Mr. Carter, any comment on today's hearing?" I looked directly into the camera. This wasn't just about one man stealing rent. I said, it was about an entire system designed to silence people. A system that ends today. The press conference continued behind me, but I'd already said what mattered. Douglas Hampton had pleaded guilty to 8 counts of fraud, 3 counts of tax evasion, and conspiracy to commit housing violations. He tried to cut a deal, offered names, but it didn't help him. He was sentenced to 11 years in state prison. No chance of parole before 5. 2 of his board members got 3 years each. One was still under investigation by the IRS. And the HOA? Dismantled. The court appointed an independent receiver to manage Lakewood until new elections could be held. Full audit. All bank accounts frozen. Every former tenant of Hampton's scheme was contacted. Most will receive restitution from seized assets. Mrs. Holloway was elected interim HOA president by unanimous vote. Her first motion? No person shall be charged any fee not published online and agreed upon in writing. It passed. Applause erupted. Lakewood felt new. Children played outside again. Neighbors talked to each other like real people. For the first time in years, the cul-de-sac looked like a community instead of a control zone. Even Karen showed up one evening, standing awkwardly at the end of my driveway. I wanted to say thank you, she said. You could have kicked me out and walked away. Instead, I nodded. You weren't the enemy. You were just caught in it like everyone else. She smiled, faint but genuine. You ever need a dog sitter? She said. Mine needs friends. The story didn't end there. 2 weeks after sentencing, my phone started ringing nonstop. Emails from Arizona, Florida, Missouri. People asking if I knew about their HOA presidents doing the same thing. People with folders, receipts, screenshots. I passed them along to the same state investigators who took down Hampton. Then came the call from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and then the FBI. Apparently, I cracked open something big. Ghost rentals, fee-for-quiet schemes, compliance bribes, dozens of HOAs across 11 states, all following the same playbook. The DOJ launched a multi-agency task force within 60 days, named it Project Phoenix, and they asked me to help, not officially, not with a badge, but as a consultant, a guy who'd seen the scam from the inside and lived to expose it. It was surreal. 6 months earlier, I just want a quiet house by a lake. Now I was sitting across the table from federal agents and realtors in expensive suits, helping write national legislation to make this kind of abuse impossible to hide again. They even gave the law a name, the Hampton Reform Act. It mandated digital transparency, banned cash-only HOAs, and required rental activity to be publicly reported by all associations. Reporters called it the most important HOA crackdown in American history. Me, I just called it peace of mind. But nothing lasts forever. It was a Sunday afternoon, nearly a year after Hampton's arrest. I was sipping coffee on my porch, sun warming the dock, Mrs. Holloway waving across the street as she planted new rose bushes. Then I noticed it. The black SUV. Not Karen's this time. Unmarked. Parked just outside the HOA's old meeting hall. Windows tinted dark enough to absorb the sun. Engine off. No movement. I watched it for 10 minutes. No one got out. No one approached. I stood, walked slowly down the street, pretended to check the mail. As I got closer, I saw it, a small sticker on the rear window, a red triangle with a white outline. I'd seen that emblem once before, during a federal briefing about HOA cartel behavior. A symbol tied to a multi-state property shell company. The passenger window rolled down halfway. A woman sat inside. Black blazer. Aviator sunglasses. No badge. Mr. Carter, she said. Voice smooth. Measured. Dangerous. You made waves. Who are you? We're just concerned citizens. Watching. You threatening me? No, she said. We're just wondering how long you plan to play the hero. The SUV pulled away. No screeching tires. Just a smooth glide into silence. I stood there, mailbox still open, wind blowing through the hedges. The neighborhood was free, but I had just learned something important. The HOA scam I exposed wasn't the only one. It was just the first one they let fall. A week later, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a USB drive and a note that said only, "If you really want to help, look into Cypress Ridge. Don't trust the manager. Don't call the police. We'll be watching." I looked out across the lake. Kids were laughing. Dogs barking. A grill fired up down the street. Peace. For now. But somewhere out there, another HOA kingdom was rising. And they didn't know I'd already started packing.